Okay, we do always encourage people, if they have questions or discussions that will be of interest to themselves and to the members of the group, then bring it up. We're here to have fun, and everyone has, a platform to voice their opinions, especially if it's on topic. Huh? Yeah.
In the Torah, Shavuot is very clearly an agricultural festival. And
is a what? Festival?
Agricultural festival.
Agriculture, yes.
Show up, come do this. The lands on, maybe, depending on the majority opinion, that's when we also got the Torah. Not even universal majority opinion. But at some point, that theme took over the agriculture by far.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
When did it happen? Yeah, why is it this?
I'll tell you the answer. The answer to that is like this. He's correct that Shavuos does mark. Shavuos is the holiday that we're starting to celebrate tomorrow night. We'll celebrate it from Tuesday night to through Thursday, right? So it's 2 days. It's Wednesday, starting obviously it starts the night before, so it's Wednesday and Thursday, starting on Tuesday. And it is the day primarily known for Matan Toratenu, the day that we got the Torah. The day we got the Torah, the Sinai experience was on the 6th day of the Hebrew month of Sivan, which is tomorrow night. In the Torah, it's brought down in 3 places, correct? 3 places it talks about Shavuos, and it mentions that it's also a day where we bring the Omer, right? The Omer offering, and I believe it kickstarts the Bikurim, which are both which is an agricultural law that's applicable only in Israel. So there is a duality here. There is 2 different themes in Shavuos, but I believe the reason why we highlight the fact that we got the Torah theme is because well, we don't live in an agricultural society anymore. We don't live in Israel anymore. Think about the Talmud, right? The Talmud is the Mishnah is 63 books. 15 of them are agricultural books, and how many of them do we study in how many of them were elaborated in the Gemara? None. Why not? Because they weren't applicable. If you're living in Yerushalmi, no. Yerushalmi, yes. But remember, Yerushalmi was written in Israel. So yes, there is a tendency that when things are less applicable, less pertinent, less relevant to your day-to-day life, they'll be relegated to academia, if you will. But what I'll tell you is that in the prayers, if you look at the prayers, what do we say? Shavuos, right, is the day of Yom Matan Torah, the day we got the Torah. Yeah. So yes, it is. Even though the Torah may reference the agricultural aspect, number one, that's only part of it, and we could say that the primary aspect, the primary idea, the primary theme of the holiday is the day we got the Torah, and two, it's just not all that relevant to us. So therefore, I know that if I start waxing poetic about agriculture, I'll probably lose everyone besides for desert.
It's also called Hakabikur.
We talked Bikurim. Okay, so everyone's welcome to take. There's Reese's.
Even on Shavuot,
what exactly?
What's Matan Torah?
Very good. Very good. So the Jews were at Sinai for how long?
3 days.
Huh? 3 days?
3 days.
This is. Come on, guys. This is basic Bible.
What's the question? Preparation or just how long were they hanging out?
How long were they by Sinai?
40 days.
We have 3 days, 40 days. We have a quizzical look on Jason's face.
They're there a lot. Well, no, they're there a lot longer before they pushed out.
2 months.
There.
How long were they at
That's
Sinai?
like a year or something, wasn't it?
It's like a year. Okay, maybe a year, 40 days, 3 days. How long was the Sinai experience?
6 hours.
Okay, so the Torah says that the Jews got...
At least 3 days.
At least 3 days, okay.
Because they had 3 days of preparation.
The Jews encamped by Mount Sinai on the first day of the Hebrew month of Sivan. Sivan is the month that comes after Iyar, which comes after Nisan. We're all familiar with Nisan because Nisan has Pesach. So Pesach is the 15th day of Nisan, and afterwards comes Iyar, and then afterwards comes Sivan, which we're in right now. So the Torah says that the Jews encamped at Mount Sinai on the first day of the third month, which is Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, which is Sivan. So they were there from the first day of Sivan, and they left, as it says in, I believe it's in Numbers 10:11 or something like that, 10:20. That they left on the 20th day of Iyar of the following year. So they were there for exactly a year minus 10 days. Victory goes to Jason. Now, what were they?
He was over.
Huh?
He was over.
He said it.
He was over.
Price is right, President Bob Barker.
Closest to the pin. Now, what they were doing there is also not so clear. It's not so clear what they were doing. We know that 3 days before they got the Torah, it says, this is in the book of Exodus, halfway through the book, and I think it's in chapter 20, it says that 3 days before, so that they encamped at Mount Sinai the first day of Sivan, and then 3 days later, on the third day of Sivan, God told them, okay, in 3 days, you're going to get the Torah on this mountain, so prepare yourselves. And we know that there is a Jewish tradition to stay up and study Torah the entire night of Shavuos. Is everyone familiar with that tradition? Yeah, so tomorrow night there's going to be thousands, probably tens of thousands of people across the globe who are going to be staying up the entire night, not going to sleep, and studying Torah the whole night. And the reason why there is this custom is because the Midrash says that the Jews, when they got the Torah, which is on the morning of the 6th day of Sivan. I'm sorry if I'm just getting you mixed up with these calendar names or these names for months. But this is a month called Sivan, the Hebrew month of Sivan. The 6th day in the morning, they received the Torah. And what were the Jews doing at early morning on the 6th day of Sivan? They were shlofing, which means they were sleeping. And let me ask you a question. And in order to atone, so to speak, for the Jews' lack of interest in the Torah, that they were sleeping, we spend the night like sort of rectifying that by staying up the whole night, right? Because like tomorrow night is the sixth day of Sivan, which is the anniversary of the Torah, of when we got the Torah. And because that night the Jews were sleeping and had to be woken up early in the morning. Therefore, in order to atone for that, we do the opposite and we stay up the whole night. That's the source of this custom. But let's ask you a question. If I told you that tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., or better yet, in 3 days at 5 a.m., I'm going to give you a wondrous gift. I'm going to give you, $1 million, if that's not enough, $10 million, right? Or I'm going to give you, you'll get to meet J.J. Watt, right?
I already saw him in Panera Bread.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Wow.
Okay, but for the rest of us, J.J. Watt is a big athlete in town. He's J.J. Watt. Anyone who knows who J.J. Watt is?
Yeah.
He's the
Guy who goes for the
yes, he's the guy who goes to bed with the shirt, right? Right.
Texas.
He's the biggest athlete in town. So if I told you that tomorrow morning at 5 a.m, J.J. Watt is coming to town and he's schmoozing and he's signing autographs, everyone would wake up. And even people who don't normally wake up at 5 a.m, like Trevor, people like me would probably also wake up. Hey, let's go say hi. You get pictures, right? We all know that as kids, when we had the class trip, the morning of the class trip, everyone woke up like at 4 a.m. and weren't able to go back to sleep. Anyone had that experience?
So exciting.
You're excited. You have that anticipation. It's 3 a.m. and you're
You
ready
don't want
up.
to miss it, so I you know.
And then you wake up and you can't fall back to sleep.
I
You get
know.
dressed and you're waiting with your rollerblades and your bag, right? Ready to go. How is it possible that the Jews are going to experience the most momentous event in the history of mankind? They're going to experience prophecy. They're going to hear the Ten Commandments, these famous Ten Commandments that we're still talking about, 3,300 years later. And the Jews would really sleep in? Huh?
Go to sleep early. This is the most important
Or
thing.
wake up early? It's a good question, no?
So what exactly were they told?
Huh?
What exactly
maybe
were
they
they
were-
told? Maybe they didn't take it seriously.
They didn't know how amazing it was going to be.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but yes. So you're saying maybe they weren't. Maybe they were just lackadaisical about the whole thing. But I'll counter that by saying that God instructs Moshe that make sure the Jews don't touch the mountain, because if they touch the mountain, they're going to die. Right? So it seems like the Jews had they were aspiring to experience this event, and they were going to go close and touch the mountain. That they built a fence around the mountain. The Jews wouldn't touch it. So it was like an electrocuted mountain. That were they to touch it, they would have died. That's what it says. They had to be restrained, so to speak. So the Jews were on a spiritual high. So it's very hard to say that they just weren't interested. They were just schlepping along for the free food. What do you say, Jason?
Well, I'm wondering how active they were expected to be. If you look at the in plagues, here they're told many times they're told something's going to happen, like push, you guys stay inside for this one or for other stuff, stop there. And basically their job was basically do nothing. Just be around, be present. Even if you look at, the 10th plague, 3 days preparation, have the lamb, you cook, eat it, stay in the room. Don't go out.
Basically, they're in bystander mode. So they were just...
when they were doing the other stuff, it was essential. I mean, for almost all the plagues, their job was to do nothing. And then even when the job was to do something, it was to do a really big barbecue. And then you kind of went to sleep, and a lot of people were dead the next day.
Oh, interesting. So I want to share with y'all what my friend David A. Clayman, he told me once to answer this question, and I like it so much I'm going to repeat it to y'all. So he said that the very complicated laws governing what happens if you make a vow. So we know that if you take a vow to refrain from eating something, or to obligate yourself to eat something, or to do something, right? If you say, I am making a neder, which is a vow, to eat oranges every single day for the rest of my life, you have to do it. You're obligated. You created an obligation or a prohibition by saying in a vow that you'll do something or you refrain from doing something. And this is very, very complicated and strict laws. There's many books written about it, especially we know there's a book in Talmud called Nidarim, which means vows. There's a book in Talmud called Shavuot, which does not mean this upcoming holiday, rather means swearing, which is a separate kind of vow. When you swear to do something, it's also a way of obligating yourself to do something. And lastly, there is a book of Talmud called Nazir, which is a specific kind of vow where someone says he's not going to drink wine or encounter dead people for 30 days. It's separate, very complicated laws. And the Talmud says that if someone says, I'm not going to sleep for 3 days, someone says, I'm not going to sleep for 3 days, it is as if he already negated his vow, as if he already went against the vow. It means he gets punished right away as if he already slept. And like it explains is that physiologically, we cannot go 3 days without sleeping. It's not possible to go for 3 days without sleeping. And therefore, when someone says they're not sleeping for 3 days, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that they're going to go against their vow, and therefore they get punished right away. So the Jews, this is more of what my friend David Clayman says. The Jews, 3 days before the Sinai experience, were told you're about to encounter prophecy. You're about to experience the most amazing event, not only in your lives and in anyone that you know in the history of mankind.
So they tried not to fall asleep.
They were so excited. And they couldn't sleep for 3 days. They were just up with anticipation. But after 3 days, we know that physiologically it's not possible to sleep for more than 3 days. So they counted out, and they were sleeping at the time of the Sinai experience.
It's kind of funny.
Nice.
So it says they were told 3 days before.
Yes, that's access. But what I want to do tonight is I want to discuss.
So wait a second, I have a question.
Yes, Matthew.
So we atoned for them by staying up all night and reading Torah, but it was impossible to stay awake.
Okay, so so the
God could have made him stay awake if he wanted to. He has that power, but
so
They didn't choose to be sleeping. They
Yeah.
So you're asking that according to this explanation that my friend offered, what is the justification? Why do they need atonement?
Yeah.
because it seemed like they didn't do anything wrong. In fact, they were so. It's not like they were not interested.
They tried.
They were so interested that they couldn't fall asleep. It's a good question. I'll have to send it to him. Well, maybe they should have had some sort of responsibility. Maybe they should have been responsible. Said, no, I'm going to sleep anyhow, and because I don't want to be up for the actual event. I don't know. It's a good question. I like
They
the
weren't
question.
punished for it. It wasn't
It's
like
not punishment.
it
Right?
wasn't like they considered doing something wrong, but in a small way, it needs to be.
Rectified? It's a good question. Question's a good question. I like it. So what I want to
So the
discuss...
rabbis came up with.
Yeah, it's good. What I want to discuss today is... I think that the holiday really has, or at least the fact that we got the Torah, has two elements to it. So it seems like it's just like an anniversary. Hey, we got the Torah. We're really happy we have the Torah. And let's celebrate the day that we got it. Sort of like an anniversary. That's the most simple understanding of what happened. There was a momentous event that was so important to our forefathers. Therefore, we're going to say, oh, let's celebrate it. Let's make it a day of a memorial day for it, and let's celebrate it by, eating dairy foods and staying up the whole night. That's the simplest understanding. What I want to say is, what I want to maybe explore is the idea of this event at Sinai to be much more than just getting information or getting the Torah and having this revelation. I almost said revelation. I almost by mistake invented one of my new words. Revelation. Yeah? It's much more than just what they got, but more the event itself. I think if we're going to do our due diligence as Jews and as humans, we're required to ask a few questions. If you're going to do your due diligence, what's incumbent upon you as a human, as a Jew, you're going to have to ask questions. And the king of all questions that you have to ask yourself is, how do we know we're right? How do we know we're right? What I mean by that is that there's a mutual exclusivity in religion, right? We say one thing, the Christians say another thing, the Muslims say a third thing, and it's not possible for them all to be right. It's not possible. It's not possible for the Christians to be right, and it's not possible for the Muslims to be right at the same time. Because though they are mutually exclusive, it's not possible for them both to be right. So what we're doing is we have a way of looking at our theology and our philosophy and our outlook is also maybe we don't believe in JC, we don't believe in Jesus, right? But they do believe in him. So how do we know we're right? Maybe they're right. So I'm saying, but this question is a very important question. Are we just doing what our parents inculcated into us? Are we just living, what our community, our society, our school, our friends are doing? It's a very important question. And it's a legitimate question. Because you know what? If the Muslims are right, we're in big trouble as Jews. We're in big trouble. And even if we're not living under Muslim rule. And if the Christians are also, if you don't believe in Jesus, eternal damnation. That's what they say. Right? So if we're right, then great. But do we want to just take the chance? And I think this question is a universal question. It's unsettling because no one likes to examine. People are very fond of their. People have an identity, and you don't want to challenge your identity. You don't want to say, "Oh gosh, I might be a Republican or a Democrat." Oh my gosh, you don't want to. No, still, but we're Jews. It's really frustrating. For someone who, it's political, right? People have a political, identity, and they say, I kind of agree with either side, and it's kind of. It's like no, it's not supposed to be like that. I'm supposed to believe one way. So that's why people avoid doing this. But I think that Shavuos is a good time, or the experience at Sinai is really what separates us from those religions. And if you feel uncomfortable examining your Judaism through this lens, it's all right. because in the end you'll prevail. In the end, we're the ones that are right. So now, like this. Let's imagine that it's the year 610 or 620 of the Common Era, and as we know, this was a time when the Muslims were just getting started, and they tried very hard to get as many Jews on the bandwagon. Right? We know that Muhammad was certainly influenced by Jews, and he certainly tried to court the Jews during the beginning stages of Islam. So if we're looking at it, Muhammad comes up to us and says, Jews, accept Allah is God and Muhammad Rasul Allah, which, as Eric knows, means Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. I'm just kidding, right? You know Arabic? Yeah. So, what would we ask him? What would be our first question? How would we vet him? How would we do our due diligence? Let's say Muhammad came up to us and said, believe in me, I'm the final prophet of God.
Prove it.
That's what we'd say, prove it. How do I know that you are telling the truth? How do I know that you're not a charlatan? How do I know that you didn't have prophecy? Prove it to me. And similarly, if we were living in the 2nd century of the Common Era, and we met a fellow by the name of Paul of Tarsus, and Paul says, hey, Jews, believe in JC. Why? Because he's the Son of God, right? How do we know that? What would he say? What do you mean? I met him on my way to Damascus, right? What would we say? Maybe you're lying. Prove it. How do we know you're telling the truth? If you encountered Joseph Smith in the 1830s, and Joseph Smith says, hey, Wolby, listen, I found these tablets made out of gold in the mountains in New York, and they're written in Reformed Egyptian, and the angel showed them to me, and the angel taught it to me, and this is the translation, but no, you can't see the tablets, and no, Reformed Egyptian is actually not a language, but believe in me, I'm a prophet, and go have 17 wives. So, what would I say? My question would be 56 in the case of Brigham Young.
Yeah, different religions.
Wikipedia, Brigham Young at the university. And so what would we ask him? How do we know that you're telling the truth? It's your word, and we have to just believe you on your word. He said, she said. How do we know the guy is not a liar? Well, maybe he'll show us the tablets. No. The angel told me he can't show anyone the tablets. So it's and we have millions of people that are following this religion, and it's all based on one guy's evidence. And you know what? If you take a look at religion in general, the anatomy of how a religion gets formed is always the same. It's always the same. There's many religions out there, and all of them get started off at the same, with the same basic outline.
And Judaism too?
Judaism too. We'll get to Judaism in a second. It always starts out with a revelation. Revelation. God spoke to me, right? No, not to me. I'm saying, but I'm enacting what, right? Right. It could be Paul on the way to Damascus. Jesus came to me. It could be Muhammad, right? God spoke to me, right? It could be what's his name? Joseph Smith. Also, I met the angel. I had a revelation. It was some sort of supernatural experience. And then A is revelation. Step number 2 is there's the transmission of information. Okay, now that God revealed himself to me, and he told me do X, 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 right? Which is the 17 wives, right? There's the instructions, and then those instructions, and then there's the followers. Okay, this is the way to live, and let's start living by those instructions. So if you're a part of the Islamic faith, right? So what do you have? You have the 5 pillars. Everyone knows the 5 pillars, right? 2.5% or 2% of your money has to go to charity. You have to go visit Mecca once a year. You have to pray 5 times a day, right? Pray 5 pray 5 times a day. I'm sure y'all have seen Muslims praying, right? They pray 5 times. We say only 3 times, and they're a little bit more machmir, right? A little more stringent. 5 times. By the way, where do they get that from? Where do they get the 5 times a day from? From the Jews on Yom Kippur. The Jews on Yom Kippur. The Jews pray 5 times on Yom Kippur. And the early Muslims used to actually pray towards Jerusalem, but now they pray towards Mecca, which is the holiest site in their religion, followed by Medina, and then according to Sunnis, it's the temple, it's Jerusalem, and according to the Shiites, it's Karbala, right? The place where they had that massive what's it called? Karbala? Did I pronounce it correctly? Thanks. It's good to have someone who's right. What were we saying? Right. So that's how every religion gets founded, with the same basic 3 steps: revelation, and then there's the instructions, and then the people follow and live by those rules. So if you're Christian, then you have the rules of slapping once on one cheek, and then say, "Oh, give me the other cheek," and slap right, which most Christians today don't actually abide by. But they're pretty much believe in JC and love your neighbor as yourself. And if someone slaps you on one cheek, you say, "Oh, you offer them the other cheek to slap you too," right? And we have Judaism. Judaism also, we have revelation, we have the instruction, we have the commandments, the mitzvot, the Torah, right? How many commandments are in the Torah? 613. How many of them do you actually keep in modern day America?
300.
How many of them are applicable to us today?
216.
Is that a guess?
Yes.
Okay. Is that only here a Cohen?
Darn.
Is that only here from a Levi family? Levi.
No, here.
There we go. We have a Levi. Is anyone here a...
Your children. I want to bring you
we have, I see, male Jews of the male and the female persuasion. It's not possible for someone to actually, even if you lived in Israel, right, and you were a Kohen and a Levi, and a male and a female, it's still not possible for you to do all the mitzvot, because you'd have to be a king also, right? There's 3 mitzvot given only to king. Something wrong in the kitchen.
It's your son.
What's he doing? Distracting.
Fun.
No, he's distracting Jason.
No, I'm just fine. No, who's distracting? That's me.
So, the majority of the mitzvot, the vast majority, are not applicable to us today. So much so that I think, probably 80%, out of 613 mitzvot, I think only 120 are applicable to us today. Some of them are agricultural laws, and the majority of them are the negative commandments. But the vast majority of the mitzvot are actually not applicable to us today. But we know every religion starts off the same way: revelation, instruction, and then people start following it. Okay, so if you were to go over to Abraham, better yet, you come to me and says, "Hey, the Torah says Abraham is a prophet." I want to know that. The Torah says Abraham is a prophet. Banished. But banished with love. Anyone hot here? No, it's good. Put the air conditioner on. So if you came to me and said, "Hey, Wolby, Abraham was a prophet," correct? So it says in the Torah. Abraham's a prophet, but how do we know that Abraham's a prophet? It's just his word versus our word. Is that a valid question? It's one man's word. How do we know that Abraham was a prophet? He said, she said. Better yet, how do we know that Jeremiah was a prophet, right? Or that Ezekiel or Isaiah? These are all prophets, but once again, or even Moses. How do we know that when Moses came and told us the mitzvot, the commandments, he also wasn't a charlatan. He also wasn't an imposter. He also wasn't faking it.
All those people saw everything on Mount Sinai.
Ooh, is that true?
We're the only religion that directly speaks that God came to us.
Ooh.
All the other religions had a medium, except for Judaism has a direct.
Now, what I point out here, the Christians don't deny the veracity of the Torah. The Muslims don't deny the veracity of the Torah. If you take a look at the 17th surah of the Quran, you know the Quran has 115.
For the next calendar.
So in the 17th surah, in the 17th chapter of the Quran, we meet a fellow by the name of Musa. Who's Musa? Who's Musa? What's Musa in Arabic? That's Moses. They validate our prophets. We meet Ibrahim. Who's Ibrahim? Abraham. He's the same guy. No one there claims that our religion is baseless. They all accept our religion to be true. We say they're full of baloney. They say that we're right. But it goes a lot deeper here. And like Brian said, if you watch the 1956 film by Cecil B. DeMille called The Ten Commandments, and you watch like 3 hours depicting the story of the Exodus.
Seen it 20 times.
You've seen it 20 times?
Yeah, at least.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So as you know, if you know that, what
I know.
it's there's one massive problem with that movie, and that is that movie depicts Judaism as being no more or no different than any of the other religions.
We should have your dad here. Your dad can do it so this
Nonchalant.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but he got like videotape and everything, and
It's weird.
how you never even know.
At the Seder.
Yeah.
Yeah, real nonchalant.
Yeah, so where was I?
Sorry.
Huh? Yes, so that depicts Moses going up to the mountain, getting the tablets, and coming back and finding the Jews worshiping the golden calf, and then he throws the tablets onto the calf, which is totally unsubstantiated because he throws it actually onto the foot of the mountain. The calf blows up, and then he says, "It's time to drink the bitter waters," trying to put on his best.
Bitter waters.
Oh.
And it totally misses the boat. And I think that it's important to actually look at the text of what it actually says, of how the Torah actually describes what happened there, and what the Jews experienced and what they didn't experience. Because this event is crucial not only for those times and for what they saw, but also for us today to understand the basis on which we're believing Moshe. If it was just Moses coming up to us and saying, "Okay, listen, guys, I spoke to God. I'm a prophet, okay, and God told me to do X, Y, and Z," right? What would we say to Moses? Prove it. How do we know just same thing we'll say to everyone else. How do we know that you're not lying? And you know what? If it was just Abraham, and Abraham said, I'm a prophet. If Abraham came to us and said, I'm a prophet, we'd say the same thing, prove it. But what the Torah says is that the entire assembly, this is 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60. And we could safely assume there are 600,000 women between the age of 20 and 60, and probably a healthy number of children between the age of 0 and 20, and maybe some seniors who were older than 60. We could assume there were like 1.5 million people there at least. According to some estimates, maybe you could extrapolate the number to be 3 million. But most certainly, what we're claiming is, what we claim is that not only did Moses experience prophecy, but the entire Jewish nation heard and saw with their own eyes, experienced prophecy, and experienced God telling Moshe, Alei Elahar, come up to the mountain. And they saw Moshe up to the mountain, and they saw that Moshe was a verified prophet. So, what we know for sure with absolute certainty is that Moshe was a verified prophet. Why? Because we experienced prophecy enough to know that he was a prophet. It means we had national prophecy. Shavuos was not just about getting the Torah. Shavuos was having this experience. And this experience is what we say today in 2013 in Houston. Someone says, how do you know you're right? We'd say, no. We're not just believing one guy's word. We're believing 1.5 million people who experienced this, who saw this with their own eyes. And the Torah stresses this again and again. Take a look at Exodus chapter 20, and it's repeated in Deuteronomy chapter 4. It says it clearly again and again. You saw with your own eyes. What we claim, we have a claim like everyone else. None of us here was at Sinai. Maybe we were, our souls were, but none of us can remember the Sinai experience. So, are we any different than someone else who didn't meet Jesus on the way to Damascus? Or someone else who didn't have this wonderful experience with golden tablets on the way on a mountain? Are we just believing based upon something that we were told? The idea is that such an event is impossible to falsify. The mere claim that this happened is enough to prove that it's true. Yes, Eric, what you got?
Okay, first of all,
Yes.
they all told Moses to stop after about 3 mitzvot, right?
After 2, yes.
After two, sorry. So one, you don't know what else was said, stuff like that, what else in the Revelation, except what Moses got from Mount Sinai, right? And then anyone can come right in the book that you saw with your own eyes, when it might not have happened at all.
I could tell you that you saw something with your own eyes.
If you're brainwashed enough to tell someone and they'll believe it.
Okay, so maybe they were brainwashed.
Or either that, or later down the line, after a generation of 40 years, got to tweet it out and say, okay, your parents saw with their own eyes. What happened?
Okay, so you guys hear what Eric's asking?
Yes.
He's asking two very good questions. Now, guys, this is monumentous. Does that make sense? Monumentous. Because what we're saying is that what we claim to be true is totally different than what the other 15,000 religions out there claim to be true. Yes, the anatomy of how our religion came to exist is very similar to the way theirs did. But
one thing that you're missing
yes.
is that there's no other nation that's seen this or had a revelation like this and survived.
What?
There's some,
There is one weird one, but they found the one person. I think they called him on the phone, and he couldn't tell them anything. The researcher found the one person. It's true. It's true.
What he's saying like this: the Hindus, they say, yes, it's the Hindus. I think it is. They claim that their religion got started because there was a massive war, and I think there were 3 billion people there. I think that's not 3 million. I think it's 3 billion. No, am I wrong there? Huh?
I thought it was million.
3 million. And there was some crazy war, and everyone died besides for one guy. And they all had this crazy experience. They all had prophecy. They all died. One guy survived, and he convinced everyone else that was true.
What?
They died before they could tell their kids or their cousins.
The point being is that we're still believing only one person. But these Jews who experienced this event at Sinai, they survived, and their children and grandchildren are our ancestors. It means if you're Jewish today, that means that one of your grandparents or great-grandparents was one of those same people who experienced this. Now remember, the Jews tenaciously observed the Torah. The Jews, despite being a very stubborn people, they tenaciously observed the Torah for thousands of years. we know we have documentation, we have historical accounts of the Jews being obsessed with studying the Torah and observing the Torah. We have that from millennia ago. So the Jews were really obsessed with these.
Also people going off the
Yes, you have. But remember, even the people who went off the derech, as you call them, right? Even during the times of the temple, right? As Josephus, right? There was the Essenes and the Sadducees and the all these, the Dead Sea sect, all these groups that splintered off. None of them denied the Sinai experience. None of them said we're not Jews. We don't believe that none of them. They just denied. They denied the oral Torah. Right? None of them said. So think about it. You have millions of Jews over thousands of years observing a Torah that tells you some pretty crazy things and gives you some pretty crazy restrictions. Would they really observe it, adhere to it with such tenacity if they knew it was bogus? If they were in some sort of daze and 3 million people just saw something that they didn't see? Think about it. To get 2 Jews today to agree on anything, how hard is that? To get 3 million Jews to believe that they saw something that they didn't see, so much, and to believe it was to such a degree that they're willing to live their lives by these principles and not, for example, and not work the field every 7th year. Can you imagine taking every 7th year off, not working at all, like it says in the Torah? Oh, and God will provide. Can you imagine if you had any doubts about this religion's truthfulness? If you had any doubts about this religion's truthfulness, would you really say, I'm not working every seven years? I'm just taking time off and just hope to God that everything works out? Think about it. Do it.
We're due.
Really?
We're past the 7 years.
But remember, what do they claim? I believe, okay, that I believe that it's that there was a fellow by the name of Paul. Okay, I believe 100%, and he had this, or he claimed to have this experience, and it's totally true. I think it's true, right? Remember, what are they selling? They're saying, "Oh, Paul, on the way to Damascus, had this experience, and he started this religion." Right? Before that, Christianity was just a subsect of Judaism, Judeo-Christians. These Jews who observed the entire Torah and just believed that Jesus was some sort of special guy, right? Paul comes along and starts a new religion. So Paul is the founder of the religion. So I believe that it's 100% true that Paul claimed to have had this experience on the way to Damascus. The question is, well, maybe he's lying. And if you ask any Christian today, they'll say, well, yes, we don't know. Maybe he was lying. We don't know. It's not possible, And
well, there's been one crazy person and 1.5 million people.
That's the point. So yes, in order for our religion to not be true, there have to be at least 1.5 million people who either flat out lied to their children and perpetuate and live by this doctrine, right? Knowing all along that it's false. You got 1.5 million people to collaborate, and these are Jews, by the way, to collaborate and perpetuate a total falsehood that they knew was false. Or maybe they were on mushroom, maybe they were on shrooms, or maybe they were on acid, right? Okay, you know what? If that's true, so you know what? Let someone else come up with that. Huh?
They all had a great experience.
But when they get out of their stupor, they probably
didn't sleep for 3 days. Maybe they were kind of crazy. I don't sleep for 24 hours. I'm crazy.
But also, remember, it's important. Even though the Jews had prophecy only at Sinai. Remember, this is the only time that the only time. And interesting, the Torah even says. We don't have to get the actual verse. The Torah actually says. This is Deuteronomy 4, 20, 32. If you want to check it out. You might inquire about times long past, from the day that God created man and earth, exploring one end of heaven to the other. Has there ever been anything like this great thing? Or has anything like it been heard? It means what the verse is saying, that This thing never happened and will never happen. Had a people ever heard the voice of God speaking from the midst of the fires as you have heard and survived? No. Means what the Torah is saying here is that not only is the only time that this has actually happened to the Jews, but no one else will even claim. No one else will even claim that they had national prophecy. You know why? Because it's a claim that unless it's true, it's impossible to get any legs to it. It's not possible. And what Eric proposed a nice workaround by saying, you know what? Maybe the Jews were convinced years later by some fellow who said, "Oh, your grandparents saw this and they forgot about it, and only I remembered." Right? Means someone years later, 100 years later, this guy Moshe comes around, or this guy Ezra comes around, or someone else comes around and says, "Oh, years and years and years ago, your parents stood by Mount Sinai and had this wonderful experience." What would you tell Ezra or Moses or Jeremiah?
Prove it. I don't believe you. It's nice.
If I told all of you sitting here, right now, let's say I told you that 50 years ago, your parents, okay, were with me, right? Or I know that your parents saw. What do you say? What do you got?
No, I say like this. How about if I claim that I'm God?
Let's
right?
say, okay.
Let's say, right? And I say, here's a book. I'm going to give you all a book here. And in this book, it says how I took you out of Beaumont and brought you to Baytown, right? Now we all know that none of us have ever met in Beaumont, right? So the likelihood of you keeping this document and following its ordinances, its rules, because it's all based on this experience that we had, right? Probably whatever else is written in the book is probably junk too. Here we have a national revelation where the entire people experienced an event, and every single detail of the event was witnessed by every single one of the people. Right? So it's a whole different. You could throw out the document if it wasn't true, but we hear the book writes the proof. Okay, it writes the testimony of every single individual. So if there was any question about its authenticity, it'd be thrown out immediately. Right? If there was a nice big trash bin at the door, probably you take that Bible that I give out, right, and throw it out because there's never such an event has happened.
What do you say, Matthew?
Before Moses was Abraham and Isaac, they were prophets too. And this didn't happen with them. So, were they prophets or not?
Very good question. I am going to go on a limb and say that Muhammad never spoke to God and just convinced everyone, and nothing that he describes, none of his prophecies are actually true. I'm going to take that stance. And I'm similarly going to take a stance that Paul, on the way to Tarsus, didn't actually meet Jesus. And Jesus ain't coming back. Right? That's also my position. And the third position I'm going to take is that Joseph Smith never found any tablets. You know what? Because had he found them, he probably would have brought it to the gold and silver jeweler buyers and sold it. I don't believe it ever happened. It's his word. And I don't believe him. That's what I say. But how come I believe that Abraham is a prophet? Now, remember, who is making the claim that Abraham is a prophet? How do we know that Abraham was a prophet? How do we know that there's a claim that Abraham is a prophet? Did Abraham say it? Did Abraham claim that he was a prophet? No, he didn't. We know that Abraham is a prophet because the Torah that we got from Moshe says that Abraham was a prophet. So if Abraham came to us and said, "I'm a prophet," what would I say? Prove it. And until you prove it, you're no different.
So all those years until Moshe.
But because Moshe told us that Abraham was a prophet, right? Then Moshe is a verified prophet. We know for sure that Moshe is a true prophet because we saw with our. It's a verified prophet because so therefore, when Moshe says that Abraham is a prophet, it's very different than any one person saying that Abraham is a prophet.
Moshe, we just thought he was a crazy guy.
Or he wasn't. He was very.
Nobody knew. Maybe nobody knew about it.
Now that's why. Moses is called the father of all prophets. Why is Moses called the father of all? Avi Hanavim, the
He
father.
verifies it there.
Exactly, because without him, we wouldn't believe him that anyone else is a prophet. Because he's the one who's able to verify, who gives that Twitter symbol, the verified account. He's the one who has the verified accounts.
So, why don't we have another prophet?
Huh?
Why don't we have another prophet now?
Well, Judaism right now is a non-profit organization. It's been like that for 2,400 years, right? The reason why we don't have prophecy, and this is an important point, it's a little bit divergent, but I like it because we're talking about prophecy. This is an important thing, okay? If I were to go into the Jewish town square, the Jewish court of law, and say, listen up, ladies and gentlemen, I have a prophecy to tell you, and X, Y, and Z, right? What would they do? They grab me and kill me before they even hear what I have to say. And that sounds strange to us because we view prophecy the same way we view the Powerball. It's just like a luck of the draw. You can have anyone have a prophecy in the middle of the night. Right? It can happen to anyone, huh? Hey, you never know, they say in the billboards for the Mega Millions in New York. You never know. You can have prophecy. You can wake up in the middle of the night and have prophecy.
Oh, wait, you're supposed to go, somebody
Yeah, false prophet gets killed.
Really?
Yes.
So it's not murder.
It's not murder, no. It's a capital crime. So if I were to walk into and claim that I was a prophet, they would immediately kill me. Why? Because in Judaism we don't believe that prophecy is like the Powerball. Anyone could win it. Prophecy is the next stage of someone's growth. So you become a scholar, you become a tremendous person, you become someone more pious than Mother Teresa, and you go higher and higher and higher, and that the top level is prophecy. So only someone who's at the top level, who's renowned for their kindness, renowned for their diligence, patience, and scholarship, right? Only someone like that who claims that they're a prophet can have the floor to say what they want to say.
No offense, but somebody more learned than you can do that then, right?
I'm sorry?
Somebody more learned than you that's...
So, you want to know if it's possible to have prophecy? So, yes, what we say is that the idea of a Messiah is someone who's going to be a prophet. Someone to be at such a level, such a degree of piety and excellence in all characteristics, yes, that person will have prophecy. On a general scale, we haven't had anyone in 2,400 years that was considered a prophet. But it's a very important point. So if someone were to just claim that they're a prophet, we throw them out. It's not we don't kill them anymore because we don't have sovereignty. But under certain circumstances, a false prophet, was treated quite harshly. What you got, Jason?
One thing I think about with this is that people say, well, that's something that somebody said a long, long time ago, and far, far away. And I think we do see that in some religions where it's like, yes, our ancient people met with the gods, they talked, they hung out, they did all this stuff there, and then you have this huge, huge gap of time, and then it brings them to the current day people. And I think one thing that's special about Judaism is you have prophecy from Moses, and then we have this unbroken written history, this unbroken documentary. So you have to the prophecy, you have the king, you have the judges, you have kings, you have books after that, then you have eventually, the Mishnah, you have Gemara, you also do this unbroken history, whereas where other religions said, like, well, our ancient people met with them, then it's like, how long ago was that? Back when the sun was just born, and now here we are today, and there's like no documentation or anything in between, so it's like this tremendous gap which Judaism just doesn't have a gap at any point.
Yes, it's a good point. And what I'll tell you is that my grandfather of blessed memory, he died in 2005, and he was a tremendous Jewish leader, and rabbi who lived in Israel. And one of his students said, "Hey, let's see if I can find a way to link my Rebbe, my teacher, all the way to Moses." And what he did was he found documentation, documents, right? Printed works, verified works, documentation. Rebbe Talmud, which means a teacher student, right? From Moses to Joshua, from Joshua to Pinchas, etc. On and on and on and on and on and on. From 3,300 years ago to present day, till 2005. And without one broken link, and 4 sources for each one of those links. It's all documented, and many of them have actually have dates, like actual dates, when these people lived, when they died, where they lived. It's all documented. It's a great point. But yeah, we don't have any breaks. We don't have, think about it. Think about, just the fact how we were always literate. We were always more, cultured. In times where 99.9% of society at large didn't know how to read, and 100% literacy was in the Jewish community, and we have all the documents and written books and everything. So the point is like this: when we think about Shavuos, it's more than just the Torah; it's also the experience, because this experience is what separates our religion from every single other religion on the planet. When someone says, "Oh, why do you believe in JC?" What do you say? Prove it. When a Muslim says, "How come you don't believe in Allah?" Run away as fast as you can. Right? But you do believe in Allah. I do believe in Muhammad. Right? Allah, the word Allah, like the Muslim God is the same God as we have. Right? We just don't believe in the application, so to speak. The application, we're not so into the application. So yes, if you
I just want to share that I was once officiating doing I was doing an invocation with a priest. They wanted a Jew and a priest, a rabbi and a priest, and it's a good joke. So we actually sit in Starbucks together, and before we actually did this event, we got together a couple of times to just coordinate what, because it was going to be like over 1,000 people there. It was a big event, so we got a chance to schmooze a little. So
crazy.
I asked him, I said, tell me about your congregation. There were 12,000 members in his church, and I said to him, you just have to hear it for a second. I said to him, do you get a lot of questions? He says, no. We don't get any questions. They also